All right. Hello and good afternoon, friends, and welcome to our Global Read Aloud here. This is day one for our Global Read Aloud. And this reading session is going to be for our chapter books. We actually have one chapter book that we'll be reading throughout this series. And this one pays, just I will tell you this. It pays homage to a wonderful, wonderful author of mine, and his name is Jason Reynolds here. We get to read the wonderful book StuntBoy in the meantime. And what's really cool is I did not know that the illustrator of this book was one of my newly found favorite illustrators right now. His name is Raul III, and in our IDC, we actually have quite a few books by Raul, so I'm really excited to get to read this book here with you guys. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 45 pages, but what's nice is that this is a graphic novel. So it'll be nice just to get some great pictures and illustrations in as we read this wonderful book. So let's jump right into StuntBoy in the meantime. So I'm going to unspotlight myself. Hold on, it takes just a few moments here. Let's see here. So remove my pen. And I'm going to, and they're the co-host already. Spotlight for everyone. Spotting, remove all pinned videos, that's fine. And now I'm going to switch over his audio. And I'm going to mute that mic. All right, so now let's read StuntBoy. And if you need anything, you can always put it in the chat. I'll see the chat pop up as well. Okay. All right. So remember that as we're reading this book today, we want to make sure that we have some post-it notes maybe nearby, some pencils, so that you're thinking about what is it that you wonder about StuntBoy, and maybe what are some things that are just like your ahas of what did you notice. All right. Without much further ado, let's get started with StuntBoy. Already the end pages here, they're beautiful. Love it. StuntBoy in the meantime by Jason Reynolds, drawings by Raul III, live in front of a studio audience. For 10-year-old Jason, that's the dedication there from Jason. And then Raul's dedication is dedicated to Village 2 Apartments, where I grew up in apartment G1. Episode 1. Let me get it straight for you. There you go. Episode 1. How StuntBoy became StuntBoy, and a thing about a chair. Roll credits. Cue theme music. No. Start with the hand claps, then the foot stomps, stomp. Louder, louder. Now bring in the saxophone. Clap, clap, clap. Stomp, stomp. Now the song. And a 1, and a 2, and a welcome to StuntBoy in the meantime. Introducing the one and only clap, clap, stomp, stomp. Woo! This is StuntBoy. This guy right here. Him. You can't tell just looking at him, but he's the greatest superhero you've never ever heard of. And the reason you've never ever heard of him is because his superpower is making sure all the other heroes stay super and safe, super safe. And he does it all on the hush. That's right. It's a secret secret. But now, because of my big mouth, you know. So if you see him, don't call him StuntBoy. At least not when his mom or dad or his granny or any other heroes are around, because they only know him by his secret identity, by his household name, his human name. But I clearly can't keep secrets or secrets. So I might as well tell you that name too, which happens to be the best human name that a superhero can have. Portico Reeves. But in order to understand how he became the greatest superhero you've never ever heard of, you first have to know where it all started. In a castle. Shh. The biggest house. Portico Reeves lives in the biggest house on the block. The biggest house in the whole wide neighborhood. Maybe even the biggest house in the whole wide city. In the whole wide everywhere. Don't know if you could consider it a castle or nothing fancy like that, but to Portico, it sure seems like one. A giant castle of rectangles made from the glassiest glass and the brickiest bricks on earth. Look at that. Got 2 elevators, at least 1 million steps, 100 windows, 50 bathtubs, 50 toilets, oh my, 50 plus doors. What a big place. Grand. Did I skip a page? I did. Okay, so some people call where Portico Reeves lives an apartment building, Skylight Gardens, and that's fine too. No matter what it's called, Portico feels lucky to live there. And why wouldn't he? Living in an apartment building is the best. It's like having a television where behind every door is a new TV show. And Portico knows all the characters, like Mr. who stands outside apartment 1B all day long, trying and retrying and retrying and retrying his shoes tighter and tighter each time. He does this because he's scared he'll leave his feet somewhere. And as long as he has on shoes, he knows he's still feeted, which is way better than being defeated. Or Frisbee Foster in apartment 3G, who got her nickname from being thrown back and forth by her big sisters when she was a baby. Gran. Or even the kooky characters in Portico's apartment, like his grandma, Gran, who was so old her hair had changed colors from black to gray to white to purple. Oh, and let's not forget about the smarty arty purry furry family cat who's called a new name every day. But enough about them. Portico's granny and cat are cool, especially the cat. But the best thing climbing walls and jumping off counters in apartment 4D is Portico himself. Only problem is he also has a terrible case of the frets. What? You've never heard of the frets? You're kidding, right? The unsit-stables, the worry wiggles, the bowling ball belly bottoms, the jumpy grumpies, or the grumpy jumpies, depending on who you ask, the hairy scaries, or worse, the very hairy scaries? No? Maybe it's because your mom probably calls it what Portico's grandma calls it, anxiety. That X is tricky, ain't it? Might cause some anxiety. Try this. Anxiety. Oh, look, he's got a little pronunciation there. That's pretty cool. Just means there's nervous in the brain that makes nervous in the body. That's the frets. And the only person who ever seems to be able to help Portico get unnervous and defret is the other best person in the building, the one and only and one, drum roll please, Zola Bronner, best. Zola lives 1.5 doors down from Portico. They're best friends, like best. 2 fingers on a 2-finger hand. Known each other for, let me think, 163 days, and declared themselves best friends on day number 1, which is all the time you really need to know if someone's your best friend or not. It all happened after the first day of school. Zola was new, just moved into Skylight Gardens, and she hopped off the bus. And guess who came chimming and slimming up like the stinkiest ween-aged snotbot ever. Who thinks he's not the stinkiest ween-aged snotbot ever? Just because he got an earring and he swears he put it in his ear all by himself and didn't even cry. Ugh, Herbert Singletary, the worst. Yes, that's his real name. Oh, look, there's Herbert. When Herbert Singletary, the worst, saw Zola, he couldn't help himself. Wonder what he's going to do. Hey, new girl. Your glasses look like coolest glasses I've ever seen in my whole entire Adobe Weenage life. Jump! Block. This is not what he was going to say. But before he could get out whatever mean joke he was going to say, Portico came jumping off the bus. And once Herbert Singletary the worst saw Portico, his face went from regular mean to jokey jaw, teasy teeth, ha ha head mean. The worst. Look who it is. Snortico sneeze, Herbert said instead. Uh-oh. Wonder why they aren't friends. Just keep walking. Hey, Portico, what's it like having a dad that smells like a trash can? It's fine. Portico had shown her how to get, did I miss a new? No, I didn't miss a page. Portico had shown her how to get to the bus stop earlier that morning, and now he was going to show her how to get back home. It's fine. So you good with your dad smelling like a ham and poop sandwich? You saying you don't mind the smell of toe jam and ear back? Oh my. That one threw Portico for a loop. He never actually smelled the back of his ear. Toe jam, well, that's a different story. Herbert Singletary, the worst, followed Portico and Zola into their apartment building and onto the elevator. What about your mom? She's still cutting hair. Yeah, Portico looked down at his own feet. His brain started churning and the inside mix-up got going. His heart dropped to where his stomach was, and his stomach jumped up to his heart space, which meant his stomach started beating and his heart started growling. Oh no, here it comes. Uh-oh, here comes what? Here comes the frets. Oh no. Then, why yours look like a chewed up pencil eraser? Herbert kept dogging, slapping Portico on the back and the head. Oh, he went on and on, boasting and roasting, all while trailing Portico and Zola down the hall. With parents like that, who you gonna be when you grow up? Herbert taunted. Oh, I know, probably nobody. Portico wanted to turn around and tie Herbert Singletary, the worst, into the best knot ever. And a triangle double half hitch, you can't get this knot out knot, like the one Mr. Mister showed him how to make for his sneakers. But Portico tried fighting back once before, and let's just say it didn't work out so well. And after an eon, Portico finally arrived at 4D, his apartment, and tapped on the door lightly. His grandma was always home. Gran, Portico called, his voice breaky and shaky. I'm home. Let me in, please. But Gran never came. Portico was pretty sure she was resting her eyes. She was so old and had seen so much. She used to be a nurse and looked at balloons and tubes and wiggles for 1,000 years. And her eyes always needed rest. Only problem was, whenever she was resting her eyes, her ears seemed to be resting too. And her mouth seemed to snore. Or is that her nose? Ugh, weird. Okay. Luckily, what with Herbert now whispering insults to Portico like sour secrets, and the frets turning in Portico's insides into a tower of terrible, Zola's mom opened the door to their apartment, 4E. Phew. Hey, kids. How was the first day of school? Mrs. Bronner asked. Fine, said Zola. Most educational, said Herbert Singletary, the worst, pretending to be Herbert Singletary, the angel, which was not a thing. See y'all later. Herbert grinned as he backed down the hallway. Guess there were more mean shenanigans for him to shell out downstairs. Portico didn't say anything. Ugh. What's that face, young man? Mrs. Bronner asked. It's Portico, right? Portico nodded, knocked on his door again. What's wrong, Portico? Nobody there? Asked Mrs. Bronner. Well, you're welcome to hang out here. the half door. Remember when I said Zola lived 1.5 doors down from Portico? Well, between apartment 4D and apartment 4E, there was another door, but not a whole door like Portico's and Zola's, a half door. A door that looked like it had been cut down the middle. Neither Portico or Zola knew why there was a door there or what was actually behind it. All Portico and Zola knew was that Herbert Singletary, the worst, lived there. Birth of StuntBoy, the moment you've all been waiting for. Once inside, Zola tried to get Portico to calm down. You okay? She asked. The living room was covered in lawn chairs, which could have been weird if her father wasn't a lawn chair salesman, but he is. Zola calls them yawn chairs because she thinks it's funny and because they're perfect for napping. Portico, you okay? Portico couldn't answer. Too much fretting going on. Zola frowned, then unfrowned. I know what, she said, sitting on one of the chairs. Let's meditate. No, I don't want no medicine, Portico mumbled. It's not medicine, Zola said, giving Portico bozo eyes. Well, it sort of is, but not the drinking kind. My mother taught me. Mrs. Bronner was a breathing teacher, as in she taught people how to breathe so they could remember they were still alive. Portico sat on the lawn chair next to Zola's. Okay, so first make yourself a pretzel, Zola said. You got pretzels? A snack might be perfect for defretting. Might put his belly back in its belly pocket. No, make yourself a pretzel, Zola crossed her legs. Portico did the same. Now, close your eyes. Take deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Portico followed every single instruction. His mother would have been proud. Look, here they are. You like TV shows? Zola asked suddenly, even though he had no clue why she was asking this in the middle of meditationing. It was the perfect question because Portico happened to love TV shows. I mean, doesn't everyone? TV shows were the best thing ever invented, better than video games, better than candy, better than drawing, but drawing's pretty cool, and definitely better than books. I love TV shows, he said. They the best things ever invented. Better than video games, better than candy, better than drawing, but drawing's pretty cool. And definitely better than, shh, close your eyes. How you know my eyes open if your eyes ain't open, he asked. I can hear that they open. Wait, what? He was blinking too loud? Either way, he closed his eyes again. What kind of favorite TV show? Zola asked. This was easy. Easy. Portico loved all kinds of TV shows, but he loved one kind of TV show best, superhero shows. Mine too. I want to write my own when I grow up. How many you seen? I don't know, a lot. I've seen a lot times infinity. Focus, Portico, Zola said. So my mother says life is just a TV show, and we're all characters in it. So what if we imagine this is a superhero show, and both of us get to pick one superhero to be? Any superhero? Any superhero. Portico couldn't think of anyone. I mean, his father came to mind, hanging off the back of the trash truck, slinging gross things into metal mouth of his pet monster. He thought about his mom too, using those clippers like weapons, but how could he pick between the two? He even thought about Gran. I mean, she'd memorized every weird thing in the body, and actually saved lives when she was a nurse. To Portico, they were all heroes, but not superheroes, not high sky flying stronger than bodybuilders, buildings, boulders, and bad guys kind of superheroes. He couldn't imagine himself as none of those. I don't know, he said, stumped. Who would you be? And without hesitation, Zola replied, I'd be matter from Super Space Warriors. She took a deep breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth.
So that's me. You think of anybody yet? Oh, wow. Portico thought frantically. Definitely not meditationingly. I mean, I guess all I can really see me being is a super space warrior too. Ain't no super space warrior too. No, I mean, me too. Like, I'm a super space warrior too. And plus, there's two of them. They're twins, Matter and Patter. I can be Patter. We both can't play super space warriors, Portico, Zola said. Also, there are loads of superheroes to choose from. Okay, but maybe you can be a super space warrior doing like all the talking and acting stuff, and I can be a super space warrior doing the fighting and flipping stuff. You mean like a, what do you call the people who do the dangerous things? A dummy? No, a boy? Please, I can do dangerous stuff too. I'm just too smart to. Right, so a dummy. You not a dummy. It's something else. Zola opened her eyes. A stuntman boy. Portico opened his eyes too. Yeah, a stuntman boy. That way you can be the hero, but don't gotta get hurt. Portico had never thought about being a stuntman boy before, but now after meditationing, he couldn't see a reason to be anything else but that ain't really a superhero. It could be. You could be StuntBoy. Portico thought about it for half a second. I like it. How about StuntBoy the stunty McStunster? Too much? You're right. Just StuntBoy. That's me. That's you, Zola confirmed. So what's your superpower, StuntBoy? Keeping other superheroes safe so they can save the world. I like that. Kind of like you did with that Herbert kid. Zola started, but Portico cut her off. The worst. Yeah, like he really wanted to pick on me, but then he saw you and you basically ended up doing all my stunts. Wait, you you're right. Portico couldn't believe it. He'd been stunt boy before he even knew he was stunt boy. Destiny, folks. That's what you call this, destiny. Wow. That breathing thing with the pretzel or whatever is good, Portico said. I told you, it's all in the inhale, exhale. I think my mom be telling people to breathe in from their feet all the way up to the tops of their heads. Portico didn't get it, and honestly, neither did Zola. So they laughed about how that was impossible because there's no noses on your toeses. And then they watched an episode of Super Space Warriors. Zola repeated all the words. Portico threw himself into the walls, and that's how they became best friends on day number 1. Oh, and also how StuntBoy was born. In case you were wondering, homework isn't dangerous and doesn't require stunts. Nice try. We're almost done. Here we go. Just a few more pages left. In case you were also wondering, stunts have amazing names. At least stunt boys do. He learned how to name stuff from his grandma. When he was little, Gran would show him a picture of the inside of a human body. Not like the real inside, but a drawing, okay? Nurse stuff. And she'd explain each inside thing by giving him a funnier name. Stomach equals gas tank. Kidneys equals beaner cleaners. And the brain equals the think blob. So when Portico started coming up with his special stunts, he gave them all even specialer names. Zamarama Zigzag. That's when StuntBoy darts frantically back and forth to divert the attention of a lion or a tiger, which aren't in Skylight Gardens, but what if, right? Works on Herbert's too. Here's the next one. Potato Bug. Diving on the ground and curling into a ball is perfect for escaping an explosion. Not to be confused with the pancake, which is a dive, but no curl up, like a belly flop or on the floor, okay? The belly floor flop. Wow, he's got some great stunts here. Oh, here comes another stunt. Look at this one. The Plaster Blaster. All right, so here's the Plaster Blaster. This one is used to be called Boomerang Wall Bounce, which is when he jumps into a wall and uses his feet to spring off it. And Portico's mother doesn't like it when he does this because she doesn't think feet belong on walls. But for StuntBoy, anything to save the day. Honestly, he's never actually used this one, but he practices it a lot, along with the kickball and the truck wheel and the untied glide, the didn't even see you standing there, and many more, all of which he came up with on his very first day as StuntBoy. If Gran wasn't asleep and if the whole StuntBoy thing wasn't a secret, she would have been proud. Okay, fast forward 3,768 hours, which equals 113 days of school, which means 113 days of the bus ride home, which means 113 days of Herbert Singletary, the worst, waiting there for Portico so he could be the worst, which means 113 days of the Zamara, hold on, wait. Zamarama zigzag, which means 113 days of Gran resting her eyes to Portico's knocking on the door, which means 113 days of yawn chair meditations, which, if you count weekends, means 157 days of watching TV together, all kinds, but mainly the super, hold on, what does SSW mean? I forget that again. Hold on, I gotta go back. SSW means, Super Space Warriors. That's right. SSW means Super Space Warriors, which means 157 days of stunt inspiration and practice, which means 157 times Portico saved people. Well, Zola. He saved her from Herbert, but also things she couldn't see, like the time Sarah Moss broke wind on the school bus. If you don't know what that means, ask your teacher. And StuntBoy stood in front of her and inhaled it all through his nose to stop Zola or anyone else from having to smell it. Sarah literally broke wind, as in she for real broke the wind, made the bus hot, and made StuntBoy break out in a sweat. Here's a picture of it. Whew, honestly, that one almost took him out. He named that stunt. It's called the Never Again. So ready? If your teacher didn't already tell you, the break wind means someone's farted. To break wind means to fart. So Sarah Moss farted and he stepped in behind Sarah so that Zola didn't have to smell it. Super kind friend there. I don't think I'd do that though. All right. Or like the time he saw Mr. Chico in the stairwell. Ooh, here's Mr. Chico. The elevators were broken, so Mr. Chico had to take the stairs, but he was a little wobbly. Mr. Chico was always a little wobbly. You okay, Mr. Chico? Portico asked. Yeah, just trying to get my. And before he could say the word balance, StuntBoy showed up and tumbled down the steps for him. And when StuntBoy looked up from the bottom of the stairs, there Mr. Chico was. And hold on. I'm sorry, I had to pick up there. Hold on a second. I had to pick up the phone. All right. And there he was. Looked up from the bottom of the stairs, still at the top. He looked frazzled, but guess what? He hadn't fallen. Know why? Because StuntBoy fell for him. Ooh. All right, let's see how this goes. Oh, I didn't realize I got tilted. Sorry. Commercial break. This commercial is being brought to you by how to roll down steps safely, or how to do the Chico step stumble. Step 1. Well, the point is to kind of miss step 1, right? Step 2. Wear a helmet. Shoulder pads, knee pads, elbow pads, a neck pad, a back pad, and a mouthpiece. And most importantly, don't roll down steps. Just pretend to. Remember, StuntBoy is a professional superhero. Now, back to your regularly scheduled program. Chicken and gravy means good news. So anyway, 157 days later, school was off and summer was on. One night, after a dinner of smothered chicken, peas, and carrots, Portico's favorite, minus the peas and carrots, which he gave to the cat, yuck, his mom and dad broke the news. I wonder what the news is going to be. We're moving. Whoa. His mother said. Portico dropped his fork and choked on a pea he'd never even put in his mouth. But we're not really going in nowhere, just moving to an apartment downstairs. Apartment 3C, his father said. And we're going to take an apartment upstairs. Apartment F5F, his mother said. She pointed up. It won't be today or tomorrow, but soon. Portico didn't know what to say. His father grabbed his hand. We want you to know we love you and nothing will change, but what you mean nothing will change? Of course things will change, Portico said. He thought about Herbert Singletary, the worst, and the terrible things he'd said about Portico's parents just that morning, about how his dad smelled like hippopotamus butt and his mom cut hair with a plastic spoon. But this is great news. Everything will change because now we have 2 apartments, Portico cheered. That's 2 new places for me and Zola to watch TV and 2 new places for me to practice my stunts. Portico jumped up from the table, excitement all over his face. Like a new kind of gravy. Okay, his mother said. She looked at Portico's dad and they both shrugged. A different tune for a musical chair. I wonder why they're moving into different apartments. That makes one's going to be in 3C and the one's going to be in 5F. Those aren't even on the same floor. I wonder that too. I wonder how many of you are wondering that. A different tune for a musical chair. A few days after that, after telling Zola the big news, after the 2 of them went on tours of the 3rd floor and the 5th floor, which were both lovely floors, Portico was in the middle of stunt training when he heard a bunch of noise in the living room. And when he went to see what was going on, he saw his parents doing something he'd never seen them do. Yelling at each other, fighting over a chair. And not like a golden throne that would usually be found in a castle, but fighting. Oh my, look at that. This is going to be the last 2 pages for today. They were fighting over an old fold-up chair that sat in the corner with never no butts on it, like not even the cat's butt. The chair goes upstairs with me, Portico's mom shouted. No, it doesn't. It's just as much mine as it is yours, his father shouted. The thing about this chair was that even though it wasn't fancy, it also wasn't just any fold-up chair. Like the ones on the sidewalk where the men like Mr. Chico play cards, Portico's parents had had this chair since they'd met, which was a trillion years ago when they were Portico's age. It was the 4th grade field day, and little Mrs. Reeves, well, back then she was Applehead Sasha, and Mr. Reeves, who was Peanut Head Marvin, were all jazzed up to compete in relay dance races, dance contests, tug wars, and all kinds of other outside games. But it rained, so they ended up playing one of the greatest inside games of all time. Besides, of course, Duck, Duck, Goose, musical chairs. The teachers organized the fold-up chairs into a cluster and turned on the music. All the 4th graders at Greenfield Elementary in the class of a long time ago started walking around the chairs. And some kids walked slowly, some danced, and as long as that music played, they kept moving. And when it stopped, they sat. The first few rounds were pretty silly. The kids were everywhere, on the ground, under the seats, on each other's laps. But eventually there were less chairs and less kids, and less chairs and less kids, until the final chair and the final 2 kids, Sasha and Marvin. Oh, her mom and dad. The music played, they circled the chair. The music played, they circled the chair. The music, the chair, circle, 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 sit. And Sasha and Marvin both plopped down on the chair, half and half, perfect split. There was no way to choose a winner, so they both won. And the prize was, you guessed it, the chair. I know, that's a terrible prize, but like I said, this was a long time ago. The good prizes hadn't been invented yet. Oh, I love it. Very cool. All right, so let me pause right there because that's the end of our reading for today. And you did a fabulous job reading this for 36 minutes. I can't begin to describe to you how I'm just astonished at that. So good job.
And I'm going to go ahead and pin myself back up there. All right. That was a really great book, and I gotta tell you, that was a lot to read. So thanks for hanging in there. What else do I want to say? Okay, So I bet you have some wonders. I have some wonders, like why are they living on 2 floors now instead of one? Maybe you have that same wonder. You could write that down. I'm also wondering a little bit what's going to happen with Zola, especially if they aren't going to live on the same floor anymore. I don't know if you're feeling that way. I'm also wondering, where does that small door go? Like, is it a small apartment that their nemesis here lives in? What's his name? I'm trying to remember. Herbert. So I don't know. I don't know if maybe Herbert here lives in that small door apartments. I wonder where that goes. So thank you so much for joining. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording, and I just want to hear some feedback from some friends. Remember that we will join back up in a couple of days. I can actually tell you the times here. So our next Zoom is going to be on, let's see here, Friday. So our next Zoom will be for StuntBoy. We'll talk with some other classes and share our wonders and what did we notice at 10:30. And then for the You Matter book, we will gather back on Zoom at 9:30 that day as well. So thank you so much for coming. I'm going to end this and then get some feedback. Thanks.